Welcome to businesstraining.com. Today's video module will focus on the Occupational Safety and Health Act and Administration. This is our agenda for the video topic today. Please take a moment to review the outline. The Occupational Safety and Health Act, or OSH Act, was enacted in 1970. It is a federal law that governs the private and federal government occupational health and safety standards. The main goal of the OSH Act is to ensure that employers provide safe and healthful working conditions for men and women in the workplace that are free from recognized hazards such as exposure to toxic chemicals, excessive noise levels, mechanical dangers, heat or cold stress, or unsanitary conditions. The Occupational Safety and Health Act established the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, at the federal level. The Act allows states to run their own safety and health administration programs, as long as those programs are at least as effective as a federal program. The Occupational Safety and Health Act is a vast topic of which the intricacies of information cannot be fully and adequately covered in a short video. It is recommended that local occupational safety and health administration offices be contacted for more information regarding occupational safety and health. The Occupational Safety and Health Act covers all employers and their employees, to include the United States Postal Service. The OSH Act defines an employer as any person engaged in business affecting commerce who has employees, but does not include the United States or any state or political subdivision of a state. It applies to employers in any industry from manufacturing, construction, agriculture, law and medicine, charity, organized labor, and private education. The Occupational Safety and Health Act establishes a separate program for the federal government employees and extends coverage to state and local government employees where the states do not have an OSHA-approved state plan. OSHA standards may require that employers adopt certain practices, means, methods, or processes that are reasonably necessary and appropriate to protect workers on the job. Farms which employ immediate members of the farmer's family, working conditions for which other federal agencies operating under the authority of other federal laws regulate worker safety. This includes conditions such as mining, nuclear energy and nuclear weapons manufacturing, and many aspects of transportation industries such as railroads, unless they are in a state that is operating an Occupational Safety and Health Administration approved state plan. Again, however, these employees have a separate program applicable to them for safety and health. OSHA has two regulatory standards. The first is setting standards and the second is conducting inspections to ensure that employers are providing safe and healthful workplaces. Employers are required to become familiar with the standards that are applicable to their respective establishments and eliminate hazards where possible. This includes limiting exposures to physical hazards and toxic substances, implementing administrative controls for safety and health, and ensuring employees use their assigned personal protective equipment when required. Employers are also responsible for complying with the Occupational Safety and Health Act's General Duty Clause, which states that each employer shall furnish a place of employment which is free from recognized hazards that are causing or are likely to cause death or serious physical harm to their employees. This is designed to ensure that employers protect against reasonably understood, recognized, and potential hazards for their employees. OSHA standards are grouped into four main categories, which are general industry, construction, maritime, and agriculture. However, OSHA holds certain standards across industries. The first standard is access to medical and exposure records. This standard provides all employees, their designated representatives, and OSHA right of access to relevant medical records and records that are related to employee exposure to toxic substances. The next standard is personal protective equipment, which is defined separately for each segment of the industry, but it requires employers to provide employees with personal protective equipment that is designed to protect them against certain hazards. The employer must also ensure that the employees have been effectively trained on the use of the equipment, which includes things such as protective helmets, eye protection, and hearing protection. Lastly, employers must provide hazard communication. Hazard communication requires manufacturers and importers of hazardous materials to conduct hazard evaluations on the products they either manufacture or import. Employers are required to indicate on containers of the materials of the dangers if the product is found to be hazardous. The first shipment of material to a new customer is required to have a Material Safety Data Sheet, or MSDS, included so that the employer can use these to train their employees to recognize and avoid the hazards presented by the materials. OSHA is meant to protect employees from workplace hazards. If an employee feels their safety and health are endangered, they have a right to file a complaint with OSHA about the unsafe or unhealthy conditions in their workplaces, and they can do so without having their identities revealed to their employers, to the extent permitted by law. Employees are allowed to contest the amount of time that OSHA allows for employees to correct violations and standards. If they feel corrections need to be made quicker than established, then they may contest. Employees are also allowed to participate in OSHA workplace inspections, even without an employer or supervisor accompaniment. Should an employee choose to exercise any of these rights, they are protected against employer retaliation, considered whistleblower protection. Employees are required to notify OSHA within 30 days of the time they learn of an alleged discriminatory action. OSHA will investigate and ask the employer to restore any lost benefits of the infected employee if the claims are found to be true. OSHA can initiate legal action against an employer, and the worker will pay no legal fees. All employers are required to display and keep displayed the OSHA compliance poster, pictured here, in a conspicuous place where employees are able to see it. OSHA-approved state plans and federal agencies have separate posters that they are required to display. Employees, former employees, and their representatives have the right to review the Occupational Safety and Health Administration Form 300, Log of Work-Related Illnesses and Injuries, in its entirety. Employers are required to post the OSHA Form 300 in a visible location so that employees are aware of the injuries and illnesses that occur in the workplace. Employers that have had 10 or fewer employees at all times during the last calendar year are not required to keep OSHA injury and illness records on the Form 300, unless OSHA or the Bureau of Labor Statistics, or BLS, informs them in writing that records must be kept. Those employers are, however, still required to report to OSHA any workplace incident that results in the death of an employee or the hospitalization of 3 or more employees within 8 hours of the incident. For employers whose business is in an industry that is classified as low hazard, they are not required to keep records of OSHA injury and illness as well, unless otherwise requested in writing by OSHA or the Bureau of Labor Statistics. These employers may include automobile dealers, apparel and accessory stores, restaurants and bars, most financial, real estate, and insurance industries, certain medical and dental offices, and legal, educational, and membership organizations. This exemption is known as a partial industry classification exemption. But if a company has several establishments engaged in different classes of business activities, some of the establishments may be required to keep records, such as if a retail store chain also owns and operates a manufacturing business. The manufacturing portion of the business will be required to maintain records. All other employers are required to use the Form 300 Log of Work-Related Illnesses and Injuries to classify work-related injuries and illnesses, as well as notating the extent and severity of each case. Covered employers are required to record work-related injuries and illnesses that result in any of the following: death or dismemberment, days away from work, restricted work activity or job transfer, medical treatment beyond first aid, loss of consciousness, as well as any physician-diagnosed condition involving cancer, chronic irreversible disease, a fractured or cracked bone, or a punctured eardrum, when in connection with a work-related cause. Employers must also report any needle stick injury or cut from a sharp object that is contaminated with another person's blood or potentially infectious material when related to work causes. In addition, any case that requires an employee to be medically removed under the requirements of an OSHA health standard, work-related cases that involve hearing loss under certain conditions, and any tuberculosis infection, evidenced by a positive skin test or diagnosis by a physician after exposure to a known case of active tuberculosis, are also work-related injury or illness reporting requirements. OSHA compliant safety and health officers may inspect every establishment under programmed or unprogrammed inspections. Establishments that have high injury rates receive program inspections, and unprogrammed inspections are used in response to fatalities, catastrophes, and complaints. OSHA treats certain violations, known as de minimis violations, which have no direct or immediate relationship to safety and health with no penalty or abatement. For other than serious violations, which are violations that have a direct relationship to job safety and health, but probably would not cause death or serious physical harm, the employer can suffer penalties of up to $7,000 for each violation. For serious violations, which are hazards that have a substantial probability that death or physical harm could result and the employer knew or should have known of the hazard ahead of time, the employer can suffer up to $7,000 for each violation. For willful violations, where employers intentionally and knowingly commit violations and knows what they are doing constitutes a violation or knows that the condition creates a hazard and has made no reasonable effort to eliminate it, employers may suffer a civil penalty of up to $70,000, but not less than $5,000 for each violation. For employers that are convicted of a willful violation of a standard that resulted in the death of an employee, the offense is punishable by a fine of up to $250,000 per individual, or $500,000 per organization, up to 6 months in prison, or both. Employers that have repeat violations bring fines of up to $70,000 for each violation, and the original citation of the repeat offense must be finalized and not under contest. A failure to correct prior safety and health violations may bring a penalty of up to $7,000 per day for each day beyond the prescribed correction date. As stated, the Occupational Safety and Health Act is a vast topic. To get more information on the OSH Act and compliance, it is recommended to speak with an Occupational Safety and Health Administration office to ensure compliance within regulations in your employer's industry. If you would like more information on the Occupational Safety and Health Act, please go to the Department of Labor website at the following link. Thank you once again for your time and attention, and this is businesstraining.com, where you can earn a master's level qualification to make more money.